All right, what is up, everyone? Hope you all are staying safe out there. As always, welcome back to the Revan Trading Channel. Just wanted to do a couple updates on the market and look at a new indicator I am building for the bumper bands. Users have had some real great progress over the last couple months building a new indicator that I think is just, they're slowly getting better and better. And if you're a user and you've been staying around, yeah, you can see the last few updates to the bumper bands. The bumper band 1 hour max plus has just been an extreme update to the indicator, and I'm working on currently a 30-minute version. And ultimately what I'm working towards is a bumper bands indicator that is just one indicator that works on every time frame. It just takes tons of data, tons of building research, trying it out in different time frames, just an unbelievable amount of work. So all of that is happening in the background, just slow and steady as we are going. But let's start with the 10-day time frame and look at a few things. Not a whole lot of new information here to update. We're still looking at a short-term bounce. Our short-term target is at 103,900. Based on this and a few other time frames, I am expecting a bounce into the 100K to 103 area. Seems very reasonable. Maybe as high as 110K. If we are going to see a bit of a fake out, kind of, I guess, a fake out for the bears like we saw last cycle, maybe even up to like 150K, I feel like that would be the most extreme fake out case, because at that point, everybody's saying, the bull market is on. Price targets come, to looking for 200K plus, and you'll hear a lot of large numbers out there. Who knows? If we were to see this, I expect it to be January, February area, maybe even March before we see that. But we do have some conflicting data on that. So I'm reserving the right to be wrong, but I am making at least drawing a line in the sand and say, hey, this is kind of what I'm expecting and looking for here. How high do we get? Not 100% sure. And we're kind of, as we go, as we follow the channel, we'll kind of keep updating and making decisions as things come along. But at least for now, looking at a bounce to around 100K to 100 and even 11K area. I am seeing some interesting information based on the MBO. We'll look at this info in just a second. But currently, we are still crossed down on the momentum oscillator, but we have seen the majority of that move play out. It was a price move target down to 81K, and we saw 81K already get hit. So I do expect this to be the low. We are on our separation percentage right here. We are, in extreme zones. So we should see the oscillator, it is already starting to turn up. We should see it continue to turn up in the next few days and momentum slowly change directions. And I do expect that to continue to carry out. So once it changes directions, if we do see a cross to the upside in the next couple, it might be mid-December or in December before we see a cross to the upside. And that would align with a move into January, February to the upside. Now, if we see rejection, this could also happen. We could see a quick move up to 100K area and then a rejection off of that signal line, or maybe a slight fake out across above the signal line and then turn down. We'll keep our eye on it. Right now, it has to get above 114 to cross up. I do expect that number to come down significantly over the next two closures. So looking at the momentum oscillator, we do have some interesting data there. Okay, looking at the MBO. This is something I looked at, I believe, in the last video or a couple videos ago. And this one called the top very nicely. In fact, it gave us a couple bar, it was basically 1 bar early. It hit extremes 1 bar early. And so my settings on this are for it to reset at extreme levels, so 100 plus. It resets, and you can see the other settings right there for this indicator. So as soon as it hits 100, it will reset. And because at that point, generally in the past, is when the bulls have lost control, or I kind of picture this indicator as a bull versus bear kind of a warring indicator. It's kind of looking at who has control. And at some point, you're going to get exhausted, right? And so generally in the past, when it hits 100, price has gotten exhausted, at least as far as macro tops and swing tops. We did see a move back here in 2021 where it called the top and then reset and barely, is trying to regain bullish control, but it never really did. It barely ticked over and then immediately closed back below it. And that was the start of the bear market. So if you wanted to play it really conservatively based on this indicator, The top is in if you're going to be the most conservative, and you stay out of the market for the next 6 to 8 months. Wait for the dust to settle, and then see where we're at. If you want to play it a little bit more risky, but kind of thinking we might see something similar to this, we see a bounce up and maybe make new all-time highs, close some around all-time highs, who knows, but we'll kind of keep an eye on this indicator. Now, if we go back even further, the interesting thing is back in 2017, this also worked out exactly the same. It called it one bar early. The next bar was just an extreme move, a more extreme move, and that was the macro top for, how long was this? Quite a long time. We didn't see, a macro top for, really didn't see new all-time highs for years to come. But we saw the the bottom about 36 bars later, which I don't know the math on that in 10-day time frame, but it was quite a ways out before we saw everything settle. And going back even further, if we're going to get real extreme here, we saw a somewhat similar move, though this was not a macro top, to be fair. It called it one bar early. We saw a nice 26% correction. The market then did, though, go on to make new all-time highs. And then one of the very first all-time highs back in 2013, we saw, and the interesting thing about that was in November as well. So super interesting data there. It called it actually on the bar, and from there on out, it took quite a long time, and it did bounce up. So it took about 19 bars for it to see a bounce, but it really didn't hit the bear market bottom for 63 bars. So, time goes on and progresses. It didn't really call anything earlier than that. There's not any data there. It's trying to look at the data, but that's not super helpful any earlier. Anyway, so all that to say, it is pretty consistent here in calling general tops of the market, at least before we see pretty heavy moves to the downside. Again, so kind of coming back to our synopsis, may see a push up, probably will see a push up, and after that, what happens, who knows, we'll see. If we do go about, I think, 36 bars out from that top back here, 36 bars would be in July of next year. So maybe we see our bottom, which is actually funny. That's exactly where I have my line right there. Maybe July. The other one was like 60 some bars. I don't think it'd be that long before we see the full reset. So yeah, it's just some interesting information to look at, kind of plan for. How deep will the correction go? Not 100% sure on that. I think other targets we were looking at were maybe the 60K area to 70K area. So how much further is that than we've seen the most extreme move? It's only another, I say only, but it's still another 27, about 25%, I guess, move to the downside that we could see extra added on to what we've seen in the past. Regardless, somewhere from July to September area of next year could be our bear market bottom. Again, this is a lot of assumptions here, so I'm just kind of generally getting some kind of game plan going. Really what we're going to need to do is look at what happened in real time, what happens with the midline, if it rejects, if it closes above, and then take it day by day, because every market could be different. So if you like this content, if you're looking forward to seeing what happens in the future and get more general thoughts like this, please subscribe. It would be great to continue to grow the community here, and just have a lot of fun doing all this stuff. So, all right, we're going to jump to the 1 month time frame. I don't think we have much to speak about here, except for we did see, again, a nice bounce off of the dotted midline, and we are actually looking to close above the support 1 band, which is generally a better thing than not. I don't know how many times this happened in the past. So this did happen back here in January of 2022. January of 2022. I hate how TradingView shows their date and time. It's very confusing. And we saw a nice bounce up to the midline of the, what's this called? The 1 month ribbons. And that was a 32% move, about from low to high, maybe 35, 30. If I go real exact, it's probably closer to 36 or 38 from wick low to high. I guess we can look at what that would be from here. I do expect things to be a little bit less severe because we're in a different market period. If we do 35%, that's 110. If we assume that we're shaving a few percent off, and if honestly, if we're looking at the midline, that will change over time. That's only 100K area. So I guess, again, worst case scenario, we see a rejection off the monthly midline as well. And we turn down and we have our lows happen. Again, I'm going to be watching this indicator. If we do close above our monthly midline right there, I do expect another push up into the dotted midline area. And that's where we could be seeing, 130K to 140K, maybe even 150K as time goes on. The only thing is on the monthly time frame, our momentum is down as well, which is not a good sign. And we don't have a whole lot of times this happened in Bitcoin history. We really only have 2 past iterations that we can actually count on. And both of those, however, were the tops before we saw our bear market. After it was crossed down, to be fair, on this one, it crossed down and then it did have a bounce up to that dotted midline. So that could be, we are still looking at the same 2 scenarios here. Probably a bounce maybe to that dotted midline, maybe to our actual midline here, and then that's kind of the top for the indicator. So those are my thoughts. Those are my general predictions without giving any kind of financial advice. I'm not your banker. I'm not your financial advisor by any means. I'm just some guy randomly spouting off stuff on the internet, but those are my thoughts. We'll see what happens. Okay, I think that's everything I wanted to look at. We can look at the 1-day time frame here. Well, let's look at a couple things. Actually, this 1-day strategy for our MBO and HBED did fire off a entry at 86.7K, and we are now nicely in profit on that trade. I do expect this trade to go a bit higher, and there's plenty of ways to optimize this indicator or this strategy and get out at better places, because there's so many times where price bounces majorly and then the actual close is much lower than the top. So taking a few bits of profit as it goes is not a bad idea if you're following a strategy kind of like this, especially on a high time frame like a daily. I think not much to look at on the 2-hour time frame. It's kind of been going sideways here for a while. Even the nice thing about the 2-hour strategy is it did take some losses, but it's also taken a couple wins. And, because it's based on momentum, it gets out of trades as soon as momentum turns to the downside. So it does protect generally against a large loss. Every trade is generally not. Every once in a while, you might get one large loss here and there, but it's a pretty good, pretty safe strategy, I suppose. Again, do your own research on it. We got a short strategy here. The good thing about this strategy is this is posted on Discord. It's not entered any short trades this whole move to the upside. So to me, that's great news because it's kept us safe in this massive run up of 13%. It hasn't entered one trade, even though it did get one cross to the downside. That would have been a losing trade because by the time it crossed to the downside, price was at 90K and it just crossed to the upside at 91K. So it would have been a small loss, but it still kept us out of that loss, which is great news. So these strategies, again, are all posted. If you have access to the indicators, feel free to take them, adopt them as your own. I would definitely do your own research on them. And our 1-day time frame, the good news is here we have closed above that midline, so we do expect upside momentum to continue. And again, where is that first target going to be after here? 99K. What do you know? Our momentum target is also to the upside, and what is that target? 100K. Just seeing some crazy confluence here across these indicators. Now, we'll see. We'll see if they get hit. If they don't get hit, then you can write me a note and tell me about all your disappointments in it. But I do expect price to at least get up a little bit further from here. And if you were kind of following this indicator, we did get 2 support flags here in a row, which often calls a bottom. And then soon after that, we saw momentum cross to the upside, which again would have been a nice, the thing about these moves is generally the place to get in them is where everybody has the most fear and where the indicators tell you to. So these 2 indicators had these 2 flags calling a likely bottom. We've gone up 8% already from there, and then this momentum turned up, and we've seen a nice 5.5% move from there. So the very easy part of this move has played out. Now, do we see another 5% move to the upside? I'd say most likely 5 to 8% move to the upside. Yeah, I'd say most likely, but again, the moves have already started to play out. And so if you're just catching them here, this is not a wise place to get in position. I posted on the Discord that I was scaling into position this whole run to the downside, and my last buy was around 81K area. And so again, I posted this almost on the day, I think, of that happening. I told users that at least that was my thought. Never follow me. You're gonna probably end up losing the bank if you do, because I am not you. I can't keep track of your accounts. But I did tell users that I was, getting into some positions there, and I'm slowly starting to sell out of my positions now. So this is, for me, this is where my hand trading, I'm starting to take gains and take profits and not getting into positions. The next position I might get into would be a short position off the 100K area just as a hedge, but I would have a pretty tight stop loss on that because, again, we could see price rocket up a bit above that. So I probably will do that with a tight stop. If price goes up to 110K area, I might get another short in. Again, these are mostly those short. I only short generally as hedges against my strategies that are playing long. Shorting the market is a great way to get wrecked if you are going all out. Maybe you're really good at it, and in that case, follow your strategy. All right, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about today. I was going to jump into looking at the new bumper band 30-minute max and just some of the details on that, but I'm going to look at that next time. I'm getting pretty hungry. Got to get some lunch, and there'll be just some fun new announcements coming. Keep your eye out, and I will see you all in the next video.